Hey guys, it's Tony with Backwoods Biker Magazine and Wood Tramp Outdoors. It's the middle of January. Right now it's about 32 degrees out here, so it's a little chilly. But I'm here today to be able to reveal to you the 2022 Knife of the Year. So hang tight. I'll be right back. All right guys, welcome back. Well, what you're looking at right here is the 5 finalists from 2022. We started out with 32 builders that sent us knives, and we got down to 3 that we really felt like were strong contenders. And then we started getting emails, probably like September, October, suggesting that we actually pull some out of the vault. We sent out our emails to the group of people that we often talk to. I think there was 300 emails that were sent out and said, is there a knife that you would like to see again added to the rotation? And there were 2. The first one was from Daniel Winkler, and this is the field knife that he builds. And I'm not going to go through all the specs on every knife here because there's a video out on each one of these already that I would encourage you to go to. But this field knife from Daniel Winkler is one of the nicest, bigger blades that we've had ever seen. So we thought we would put him back in there, and it's a handy dandy knife. So that's number 1. And then the other resubmission was from a guy from Indiana, Seymour, Indiana, I think is where he lives. But his name's Todd Hunt, and he owns TM Hunt Custom Knives. And he was made popular, or got on the radar of many knife lovers when his M18 showed up on Naked and Afraid. It's one of the most unique blades that is on the market right now, and he still makes those, but that's not the knife that we're bringing out to you here. It's the Yuma that everybody that wanted the resubmission said put that knife back in there. And I gotta tell you, the Yuma is a great knife. We really love this knife. High performer. And then we were introduced to LT Wright many years ago. I guess when we first started out about 8 years ago. LT has submitted some really beautiful knives, top performers, and that's all there is to it. He's got a great crew there. He's got a great attitude and a great spirit. Really super nice guy, and he gives credit where credit is due. He points to his people that causes him to have such great success there, and of course his wife that is always in the background. She's super sweet. This is the LT Wright Aluminous 5. That's number 3, and then number 4 is from a company and an individual that you have become familiar with through Backwoods Biker Magazine. David from Ultimate Survival Tips contacted me, and you'll remember him because he has been in the running almost in the top 5 for the last 5 years, I think. And then in 2021, his Warrior Elite sear knife was Knife of the Year. Really nice knife. And then he switched gears because he was using the same platform for several years, just doing different versions, trying to meet certain needs and requests, maybe even a few demands. But this knife was totally out of his wheelhouse, and he took platforms from different knives from 3 different genres of knives, and put it into this design right here. This is called the Pack 1 knife, and when I got this knife, I looked at it and I thought, he's answered the bell on everything that was ever requested or demanded of him. And this particular Pack 1 is one of the most well-designed knives that I've seen in a long time. The design on this knife and the concept is impeccable. And that's why he's here. Now, This knife, I'll tell you where it placed at here in a minute, but had this knife been submitted to us earlier and we were able to pass it around more for the reviews, you know, when somebody sends in a knife to us and it makes it to this point, we go ahead and we give these different knives to different people and let them hold on to it for a few weeks at a time and test it and grade it. We didn't have that with this because it came right at I think in November maybe even October, I can't remember, but it wasn't very long. But it impressed us enough to where it made it to the top 5 here. And then another builder that you're familiar with Backwoods Biker Magazine is Grayman Knives. Mike at Grayman Knives is a former operator, and every knife that we've ever seen from Mike has screamed, I used to be an operator that had to use these knives in real life situations to keep me alive. And this particular knife, you know, it is a beast of a performer, especially if you're going to have to build shelters and, you know, man traps or sniper lays. You know, we're talking a true tactical knife here. So that is the 5 that has been nominated as Knife of the Year. Now, let me go through this with you here. I brought out the list, and I'm going to give you the categories where we graded everybody, all right? There are 10 categories here, and it starts out with concept, then design, materials, the build, the strength, the features, how it performs bushcrafting, how it would perform in a survival situation, the edge retention, and of course maintenance. You've heard me talk about maintenance out in the field over and over again. You know, I've had so many people send me knives and tell me, you know, they're great for this, they're great for that, and they are, until you get them out and you decide you have to maintain them and you realize, whew, this is not quite what I would want in a survival, have to use this for a live survival situation. So those are your categories, and each category received 10 points. So there is a possibility of having 100 points. And I can tell you, every year when we get down to this place right here, it marvels us how close percentage-wise that this group of 5 is, and this year is no exception, and you're going to see that. All right, so we're going to talk about concept, and I'm going to go across the knives. First of all, we're going to go with the LT Wright Illuminous 5. It received 9.1 points out of 10. The Winkler field knife received 9.0. Ultimate Survival Tips Pack 1 received 9.1. The Yuma, 9.2. This is concept. And then the West Nile Warrior from Grayman Knives is at 9.3. So West Nile had the most points, but you can tell there's only 2/10 or 3/10 between the lowest score to the highest score in this particular category. The next category is in design. You know, when I grade a knife and look at it, I look at, you know, the concept. You know, what was the builder thinking, and then how did the builder interpret that thought and put it into the development of the design. To me, that is just artistic value that you can't ignore. And in these categories here, the Illuminous 5, 9.3. And you know, I guess I should probably speak about this with each of these knives, but you know, the Luminous 5 was built on the Kephart platform. All these, you know, this kind of, our first knife that we ever saw from LT was the Genesis Scandi, and as soon as you see it, you know that's a Kephart platform, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is a great knife. I still have one, and I use it a lot. You know, if I would say, you know, what's my main knife, it would be the LT Wright Genesis Scandi. It's very reasonably priced, and it is a great performer. Well, we got a hold of this 5-inch version, which is a lot beefier, and when we look at it, you know, even though that it is built upon that Kephart platform, when you look at it and how he has beefed it up, that's the best way I can put it, beefed this knife up to perform even more, well, that design really impressed us. 9.3 in points. The Winkler field knife, 9.3. Ultimate Survival Tips in design, 9.5. So there's 2 tenths difference right there. You know, the design on this just is very, very impressive. Enough said about that. The Yuma is a 9.2. And the West Nile virus, West Nile virus, can you, what's wrong? Sorry, Mike. I had to deal with that before, by the way. But the West Nile Warrior is at 9.8 in regards to design. And you can see why. I mean, it's just, for what it's supposed to do and the performance of this knife, 9.8 is a very fair score. And again, it's not just me that's scoring these, but there were 5 other individuals besides myself. Then we go on to the materials category. The Aluminous 5, 9.5. The Winkler field knife is 9.3. Ultimate Survival Tips is at 9.6. And a lot of that has to do with the steel. This is a stainless steel. And again, any of the videos, if you want to see details about these knives, go to the video. It's out there. The Yuma was a 9.3, and then the West Nile Warrior was on the bottom of the scale with a 9.2. It is a specialized 1095 high carbon steel, but it just wasn't in the same category as the Pac 1 and you know, the LT Wright knife. Then on the build, you know, we'll talk about this. 9.9 for the Aluminous 5 from LT Wright, 9.8 for Winkler, 9.6, or excuse me, 9.9 for the Ultimate Survival Tips Pack 1. For the Yuma, it's on the low range at 9.3, and the Grayman was at 9.9. Wait a minute, I'm blending these together, so let me just back up. I'm not even going to edit it out. All right, the build, all these are close together, right? The build for the Aluminous 5 is 9.9, Winkler is 9.8, Ultimate Survival Tips is 9.9, the Yuma was 9.5, and the West Nile Warrior is 9.9. We're talking about the build, you know, and all these are just truly impeccable knives. You're talking about thousands of knives that are out there. You know, you got the top 5 right here, so they all have some corn in the crib there. The strength, which is very, very important, is the next category. The Luminous 5 is stout at 9.8. The Winkler is at 9.7. The Ultimate Survival Tips is at 9.7. The Yuma, 9.4. And the West Nile Virus, I got to stop that. The West Nile Warrior is at 9.9, right? Just superior in the strength. And then you go to features, right? And this is one where they start, this is where it starts distancing themselves, you know. LT Wright, 9.7. And you gotta, you know, this is, as I said, this is a Kephart build. This is off the platform, so it's very, very simplistic in its features. But what each feature does, like the shape of the handle, the design of the micarta scales, how this is both chemically and mechanically attached to the full tang blade is great. Winkler, the features are 8.6 because, you know, there are some issues with this knife. You know, the scales that are on here are walnut scales. I believe they look sexy, they look really nice, but once you get them out in the field, you realize, you know, there are some things that are missing with this that it really should have. Ultimate Survival Tips on the features. They were the highest in the category at 9.9. You know, that was one of the things that I've tried to explain to people, why everything from Ultimate Survival Tips is, you know, in the $300 range. Well, you look around this knife and the features that are here are unsurmountable. Down here at the bottom of the tang, the full tang knife, at the pommel, you've got a ferro rod striker and a lanyard hole. That ferro rod striker is a game changer. Really, it's a game changer. You'll always have a striker with you. On the inside of the knife is a full 22-piece bona fide survival kit. It's inside this handle right here. It's got a bow drill divot, stainless steel here on this side, and these are reversible, by the way, whether you're left hand or right hand. The way it's scalloped, that design there and the feature of that is second to none. So, they won that category hands down. And then the West Nile Warrior was at 9.0 because, when you think about features, this is just down and dirty, man. This is a fighting knife. It does the job. And it doesn't need a lot of features. It just needs to be able to do the dirty deed, and it can do the dirty deed. Now we're getting down to the nuts and bolts of this for those that aren't really operators. Bushcrafting. LT Wright, he was on top at 9.9. And then Winkler was at 9.5. It's a decent bushcrafting knife. Ultimate Survival Tips was at 9.8, just 1/10 behind LT. Great knife for bushcrafting. The Yuma, it was a little light, because it's small and it's diminutive, and there's things that you're not going to do with this little knife that you could do with a bigger knife. And then Grayman knives, well, you know why that this is at a 9.0. He's on the low end because it's not made for really being a quote-unquote bushcrafting knife. Survival. Are these knives capable of sustaining you in a survival situation? The answer is all of them are, but some of them are going to be better than others. For survival, the LT Wright is at 9.6. The Winkler Custom is at 9.1. The Pack 1 from Ultimate Survival Tips is 9.7. And the Yuma is at a 9.1, again because of its size. And then the West Nile Warrior, 9.9. It'll get you through today. So West Nile Warrior won in that category. Then we go on to edge retention. You can have a great blade, great design, even a great steel or material that it's made out of. But if it doesn't have the ability to retain an edge in performance, you're going to be lacking. So the LT Wright, as far as retention, was at a 9.9. The field knife from Winkler is at a 9.8. The Ultimate Survival Tips Pack 1 is 9.8. The TM Hunt Yuma is at a 9.6. And the West Nile Warrior is a 9.7. So they're all pretty close, but again, LT Wright took that category. And then maintenance. Maintenance is so important. I just did a video where I mentioned that because a lot of times, especially in beginner classes, I'm asked about what's the most important thing about gear. And oftentimes that question is directed towards purchasing. What gear should I purchase? But, the way that I respond is that before you ever purchase a piece of gear, such as a knife, you ought to know how to do the maintenance that particular blade is going to require in the particular area that you're going to be in. And for all you out there that are experienced, you're going to amen. Not all knives are going to fit in all areas because of the steel, might rust, whatever. So LT Wright, maintenance is a 9.9. Winkler's field knife is a 9.6. Ultimate Survival Tips Pack 1 is a 9.5. Great steel, but this kind of stainless that this is made out of can sometimes give you a little bit of fits, especially if you don't have a stone and a strop on you, okay? TM Hunt was at a 9.6, and Grayman Knives is at a 9.9. I'll point this out to you again. Go to the video on this particular West Nile Warrior. Grayman Knives does a chisel grind or a single bevel, and Maintaining this knife is very simple. You can do it with a stone out of the stream. Any of these knives you can do that, but especially this, because you've only got one side that you have to make sure that you're getting it just the right angle. That's it. You know, and as far as rust is concerned, you know, the black Duracoat finish on this is awesome. You know, that's why it received a 9.9 also, you know, and the scales, you don't have to do anything to these scales. This knife is made to be used in harsh environments, and, you know, you ever seen that commercial, set it and forget it? Sharpen it and forget it and use it until you need to sharpen it again, and it's easy to maintain. So where does that take us all? You know, where are these knives, these 5 knives at when you really get down to it and you start grading them? Well, here we go. We're going to go down with the lowest one first, and that would be the TM Hunt Yuma. It's a great knife, and it's in the top percentile, you know. At 92.4, it's in 5th place. Great blade, and the reason it's still in our vault is because it's a great blade. Todd Hunt is a master craftsman, hands down. 4th place at 93.6 is the Winkler Custom Knives Field Knife, 93.6. Again, a superb builder, and if you've never seen anything in person by Winkler, you want to try it. Matter of fact, you want to see some unique stuff by Daniel Winkler, then go look at the movie Last of the Mohicans, because he was the main designer and builder of all the authentic period style weapons that was in there, blade weapons in that movie. That kind of put him on the map. He got 4th place. And then in, wait a minute here. We say for 3rd place now at 95.5 is the West Nile Warrior from Grayman Knives. Again, it's a great knife, you know, but it does have its limitations, especially, you know, when you're talking about bushcrafting. It really isn't designed for that. Can you use it for some bushcrafting? Yes, you can. But in truth, it was not designed for that. It is designed to keep you alive in a tactical situation. And as far as I'm concerned, he is one of the best. I would have to say this. We haven't even had this conversation, I don't think, other than the coffee, around the coffee table. But he's in the top 5% of tactical knife builders that I have ever met in my life. He is superb, and that says a lot. 2nd place. So now we're down to the LT Wright Illuminus 5 and the Ultimate Survival Tips Pack 1 at 96.5. For 4th place, or for 2nd place rather, is the Ultimate Survival Tips Pack 1. Superb knife, superb design, and I really think that if he would have been able to submit it to us earlier, he may have been able to bump that up just a couple more tenths of a point that would put him into 1st place, but he didn't. It's the LT Wright Illuminus 5 with 96.6, so there's only 1/10 difference between the Pack 1 and the Illuminus 5. Congratulations, LT. You know, you have always impressed us with what you do, what you produce, what you put out on the market. You know, everywhere I go, if there's more than 10 people, at least one person has one of your blades, and there's a reason for it. You're doing a great job. Your concept, your design team, your build team, everything you got going has, one more time, made you the Backwoods Biker Knife of the Year with the Illuminus 5. And we're looking forward to 2023, what we see from LT Wright. Matter of fact, we're going to add a new category this year going forward. We're going to be looking at knives that are between between 5 and 7 inches. You know, that's getting out there for a knife, but you know, we've got some on our radar right now, and I'll just tell you, we're getting ready to get our hands on the Larry Roberts signature design. that LT Wright did for him. I happened to be with Larry back in October, I think it was, at a gathering, the Midwest Woodcraft gathering, and he had his signature knife on him, and I thought, man, that's, you know, I'm not a big knife guy, but I sure like that knife, and it looks like we're going to be getting our hands on that. And another one that we're going to try to get our hands on is the Chamonix from Craig Cottle. I haven't seen that yet in person, but I was just with Craig at that same gathering, and I didn't even ask him about the knife. You know, that was my bad. So I'll be asking more about that, Craig. But there you have it. There's the top 5 knives. If you get your hands on any of these, you will not be disappointed, and especially if you get your hands on this Illuminous 5. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for everybody that submitted a knife to us, even though you may not have made it into the top 5 or the top 10 or even the top 20 knives. You know, it got down to those 32 that we really took a look at, had some great builders. You know, again, you want to see the knives that really impressed us, get out on our YouTube channel and check them out. Check out everything that's out there, because there's some good stuff that's out there. So until we see you again, we appreciate all your support. We appreciate all the emails, all the kind things you say, and all the best wishes that you give us. So until then, till we see you again, you guys ride free, you live free, and as always, you be safe out there.